further ado, I'll get straight into the webinar for this evening. The topic is student building. All right, we'll be looking at somewhere around 30 minutes, 35 minutes or so of intense chatting. We've prepared about 20 slides, so I'll be speaking a little bit fast. Do not worry if you have any questions. We can all save towards the end. Feel free to type in the questions at any point during the sharing session into the chat group, and Peter and Mint would be sniffing out those questions and then passing back to me for Q&A answering towards the end of the session. So this is a rather small group, so we don't need to be so uptight. So feel free, make it casual, make it enjoyable, and most importantly, make it informative for everybody. So hello, we are Sesame. Sesame Education. We are a little bit new to Southeast Asia. Many families, many parents recognize me, but under another brand. I was the founder and head of Foundation Global Education over there in Greater China, based in Hong Kong, but serving the Greater China field for 20 years. I sold the practice back in 2018, and I continue on to head up the organization for 2 years until I stepped down last year. I also, during that time, relocated over to Singapore, to Southeast Asia. And in my last 10 years of my career, which I consider my semi-retirement project, I really want to do something for the communities out here in Southeast Asia, especially sharing the good news of boarding education. Boarding schools are really good. They are not for the misbehaved. They are not for those who are struggling, right? They are life-changing, and they are life-changing for our children, and they are for students who are aiming at a much brighter future. So I would like very much to spend my next couple of years, populating this boarding education concept to the communities out here in Southeast Asia. I am located in Singapore. That's where I am right now today. But my colleagues are from different cities. So Peter is from Jakarta, Mint is from Chiang Mai, and we have different colleagues from different Southeast Asian countries as well. We brought in to Southeast Asia from our past experiences, 20 years in the boarding school field. I have been visiting the top 200 boarding schools across the world over these years. I've served more than 1,000 families and have enough of a knowledge base that I would like to share with my families out here in Southeast Asia. We have just passed March 10. March 10 is a very important date in the boarding school world, and I have to say in the American US boarding school world. That's the date when most of the schools, especially the top schools, would release their admission outcomes. So in this past year, it's our very first year operating out here in Southeast Asia. Because we're setting up our operations, we didn't really do any marketing or advertising. We just had a very small cohort. We are fortunate, very honored to have received 53 offers from 37 schools. Just to give a flavor of the type of schools that we deal with, about a quarter of our offers come from the top 20 schools. About 60% of our offers come from the top 30 schools. So we are not just focusing on any schools. We're not like any consultant, but we specialize in the top 30 in the premium range. Every one of our student cohort receives an offer, and 93% of our student body received at least one offer from the top 30 schools. So that is our target range, the top 30. And top 20 and also top 10 as well. Now, on the right-hand side of the screen, we see that we also separate our schools by the age group. So we serve senior boarding schools, but we also serve junior boarding schools. Now, for those who are new to the boarding school scene, American senior boarding schools would operate mostly from grade 9 to 12. So it's a 4-year duration, 9, 10, 11, 12. And the junior boarding schools, they have a wider range. But in general, you can assume that they also serve a 4-year range from grade 6 to 9, 6, 7, 8, 9. So grade 9 is an overlap between, it is served both in junior boarding schools as well as in senior boarding schools. What we do as a consultant. So first of all, we are consultants. We're not an agent. We don't just process paperwork. And we are 100% independent. We do not collect anything financial or whatnot from any schools that we send our students to. We operate entirely independently. We are a consultant. We're an advisor. We are a bunch of educators who in the boarding school field for many years, and we know the ins and outs, and we would like to spend our career, we like to spend our time helping families like maneuver through the boarding school application process and successfully. So our most popular product is what we call the full course. The full course, as the name implies, it covers everything from initial needs analysis to country fit. Now, even though I've been sharing information on US, because March 10 was really a big day for US, but we do not send students only to US boarding schools. We send students to top boarding schools in the US, in the UK, Canada, and Switzerland. Mostly in these 4 countries and almost entirely within the Northern Hemisphere. Not that we have no connections with the top schools in Australia and New Zealand, but most of our families, because, again, we'll be talking a little bit more, they are gearing to send their children to the top universities in America and in England. So therefore, the focus is more sending them to the top boarding schools in America and England. So country fit, campus stewards, strategic positioning of the child, building the necessary profile, selecting the right schools that really match the personality of your child, and then going into the individual training and personal statement writing. Now, these are very American centric. The British schools, they just get your child to take examination, to take tests, entrance tests, they call it, which is more knowledge based. But the Americans, they love to understand whom they are recruiting, whom they are admitting onto the campus. So character is a big piece, and understanding of the character is done through interviews and reading the personal statements. And last but not least is our unbiased advocacy. You know, some other consultants, especially the more junior ones, when they enter into the field, they can do some of these work, but it is usually the older ones like myself, like the dying dinosaurs breed, that we have the kind of the inside track. You know, pick up the phone, talk to the decision maker over there at the school, the directors, and be able to advocate for our students. So these things come with age as well as with experience. We also have a la carte products, just purely helping you know, specific student only on individual training, or only on personal statement writing, or only in conducting accompanying them on their campus tour, or only applying to summer school, as well as you get into the boarding schools with ongoing advisory and mentorship, as well as life coaching. So these are like standalone a la carte products that we also do for our families. Myself, again, my name is Daniel Sito. I am the founder and head of Sesame Education. With my former company that I founded back in 2001, I had 23 years of boarding school experience, or 23 years of experience guiding over 1,000 families applying to boarding schools, top boarding schools in the US, UK, Canada, and Switzerland. I'm one of the older generation, more traditional in nature, I do not recommend any student to any schools that I have not visited. So if I were to recommend a family to a particular school, I first have to be there and vet the school and make sure it is okay, it passes through my standard, and then I would recommend. So over the years, I've been to more than 150 campuses, more than 200, but in terms of regular visit, over 150. I spend a lot of time on the road, and this is part of the harvest from all this travel is the knowledge, is the mental knowledge base about what the schools are like. And also because of that, I gained very strong connections with the schools. I know the schools know me because they see me around, year after year with bringing different families onto their campuses. And there's a very good, strong bond between myself and the schools. I've also been fortunate enough over the years, because of the sheer number of families, I've been able to, help families from Hong Kong, from China, different cities from China, from Asia, different aspects of Asia. I've helped families from Japan, families from Taiwan, from Singapore, Southeast Asia, all the way from America. And most of them are full pay, but I've also been helping certain families who might have financial need to apply for financial aid as well. In my last 10 years, my upcoming last 10 years, I would like very much to put all my knowledge of all the years that I've been working in the boarding school world into a curriculum. And this is exactly what I'm bringing to Southeast Asia through Sesame, through this this last project that I'm spearheading. And that is, I want to build the industry's most comprehensive boarding school prep curriculum and be able to teach to as many children as possible and to help as many children prepare for boarding education as possible. Now, today's outline, there are 7 components. Ignoring the Q&A, we have 6. The first one is, what is a student profile? The second one is understanding the differences between profile building and application. How can profile building help? When should you start? How to start? And how we can help. So first, what is a student profile? A profile is like a resume, all right? It kind of in a very brief space, kind of showcases students' experiences, capabilities that will lead into potential. It covers not only academic achievements. We will definitely cover academic, but much beyond, especially in the context of American boarding education. Americans, they, of course, they pay attention to academics, but it's not just academics. They're looking for a fully well-rounded student. So the well-roundedness is key to building a successful student profile. Now, what are the key elements? So the first one is academics. Of course, we're not going to leave academics aside. Americans would love to see athletes, would love to see students being involved in music, performing arts, visual arts, different clubs and activities at the schools, hopefully taking on some certain leadership roles, being involved in the community, giving back, and any others. Like especially nowadays, many are very much into computer science, coding, robotics, all that. Now, understanding the difference, there are, if you were to apply to boarding schools, there are in general 2 main phases that we need to understand, okay? The first phase is profile building. You build your profile based upon these categories, all right? Now, no student is perfect, as in no student is super being. So no one has everything in all categories. All right, very rare. But every student, should have involvement in more than just academics. Right? Most of the students who walk through our office door, they have very good academics, but that doesn't mean they will end up, being into top 30, let alone top 10 boarding schools, because the top schools, they require students' involvement much beyond academics. They basically expect the students to be like pretty smart, pretty hardworking, that you get pretty much good grades, you get yourself pretty much in order, so that you have time left over to engage into other things. All right. What are they looking for? They're looking for, especially for the Americans, they are looking for team activities, team sports, right? Say, for example, volleyball, right? Soccer, right? These are team sports, all right? Music, they would be a lot more interested in violin and saxophone rather than piano, because piano, you usually, you just play by yourself, right? But violin, saxophone is part of an orchestra, it's part of a school band, teamwork, all right? Performing arts usually involve team, right? Especially in drama, theater, right? Singing as a choir, right? These are team activities. Clubs and activities, student leadership, community service, you all engage these things with other people. Now, going back to here, profile building is the time when we help our child build the resume, to build that profile. The second part, the application phase, is the part when we teach our child to articulate, to present what he or she has in his or her profile effectively to the school, and specifically to the interviewer, because all this will be part of the interview process. Now, unfortunately, many families who might not be as familiar with the process, they begin too little too late. They begin kind of several months before the deadline. So let's say if you want to apply to boarding school, if you want to enter into boarding school next September, well, the deadline is next January. And then some parents might not begin the process until this September, right? So you are way into the application phase already. The application phase in our industry definition, or at least in my personal definition, would be the last 6 months, the final 6 months before the application deadline. So because the application deadline is in January, so the application phase should begin in July, spanning all the way to the end of the calendar year, the end of December. So these 6 months is what I call the application phase. You're not building your profile. It's too late already. You're just focusing on presenting whatever that you have. Now, profile building ideally should be done over 2 years' time. But, a lot of families, they don't make up their mind 2 years in advance. So let's say if you were to make up your mind to send your child to boarding schools, ideally, it should be for the year 2027 entry, so that you have 1 year until 2025 and until 2026, 2 years to build a profile. And then in the latter half of 2026, you enter the application phase and go through the interview, you write your personal statement, and then in 2027, January, the deadline, 2027 March, result comes out, and 2027 September, you go. All right. So therefore, working back, it's like 3 years in advance. You need to know that, oh, I am sending my child to boarding schools. That is the ideal way. All right. But maybe I would say from my experience, even after serving in Greater China for 20 years, it's quite a mature market over there. I would say less than a quarter or less than 1/5 of the families would be able to foresee things 3 years down the road. So more and more so now can say, okay, I am now thinking of 2026, not 2025. All right. But you still have about a half of the families who are thinking, oh, let's go to boarding school next September, 2025, which is 18 months down the road. And they think they are planning in advance. But technically, we could be doing even more in advance. All right. And this is the purpose of this sharing session today, to help families engage into their planning as early as possible. How profile building can help? It showcases the students' not only academic strengths, but also research abilities and career orientation. That was more for university, right? Because we also help students prepare for US colleges, universities. So that would be more towards that part. But for heading for boarding schools, it showcases students' passions, collaboration skills with other peers, and execution abilities. It also showcases the students' leadership qualities and commitment. And ultimately, it showcases students' personality and maturity. When should you start? The best time to start, as I mentioned, is to have 2 years of planning, 2 years of building the profile. So if you are thinking of entering US universities, you should really be thinking about building the profile as early as grade 9. So 9, 10, 11, these are the profile building years, 3 years for the universities. For senior boarding schools, usually it's grade 7 and grade 8. These are 2 years of profile building, and then followed by you apply either 8 rising 9 or 9 repeat 9 or 9 rising 10. And then US junior boarding schools, we encourage families to plan as early as grade 5, if not grade 6. So these are kind of the overall planning years as a rule of thumb for parents' reference. How to start? Now, we usually sit down with our families, we interview our parents, and we discuss with the family as a whole, including the student together. We identify, where do you want to be? In a sense, we begin with the end in mind, right? Do you thinking about university, right? Do you think about US, UK, or whatever other countries, right? Identify the educational goals. What do we want to achieve by going to the US or the UK, for example? All right. What type of country are we looking at? Because different country also carry different developmental approach. In a sense, say for example, the UK would focuses a lot more on academic achievement. Whether you have a lot of extracurricular activities, they don't really care. So let's say you play soccer really well, or you're a really good golfer. That doesn't really help much when you apply for medicine in Oxford or Cambridge. But it helps a lot when you apply for undergrad at Harvard or Yale, that because they see the leadership experiences and your interests that span beyond academics. We also look into the target schools, entry timing, all that will need to be taken into consideration. And then we take inventory, take stock as to where the child is right now, all right? In terms of maturity, in terms of capability, in terms of his readiness to see the world, because boarding schools would expose the child to a whole wide world. That is the purpose. And so we assess where the child is, and so we know where we want to be. We assess where the child is right now, and the third part is how to get there, right? How do we bridge where we are and where we want to be? How do we build a path, successful path? So involve strategies and also concrete plans. How do we help? Now, there are families, of course, who would prefer do it DIY, save some, consultant fees, just do it yourself. But there will be some who would like to invest a little bit more to engage in a consultant. So what is the value add, so to speak? Now, the consultants are supposed to understand the schools. Now, when I say suppose, you have to judge. You have to interview your consultant and making sure that they really know the schools. Have they really been to the schools, right? And how many times, for how many years, right? You need to ask these critical questions. So a consultant is supposed to help the family understand what the top boarding schools and university look for in a candidate. Because at the end of the day, it's not just about telling you what those schools are, it's about how to get in, right? So they have to know what those schools look for. Consultants supposed to be able to help the family maneuver through the complex application process and make those strategic decisions. So let's say, for example, early on I threw in some terms, right? 8 rising 9, 9 rising 10, 9 repeat 9. It's basically an industry jargon. It's like grade 8 rising grade 9, grade 9 rising grade 10. But there will be some situations where we will recommend a family to consider grade 9 repeat grade 9, say, for example. So, these questions like that require someone who really knows the ins and outs of the application process and how the child is being evaluated and assessed before the schools. So we help families make the strategic decisions. Last but not least, we help the families select the schools that best match the child's personality and focus on getting there, right? Training the child to be ready for the top schools. Now, a lot of the our training modules are transparent to the parents. Parents actually, it's not rocket science. I mean, many of our parents are CEOs and respective leaders in their fields. They know those things. But the difference is, as many fathers and mothers have concurred with me, knowing what to teach the child is one thing. Being able to teach the child successfully is another thing, because they are your children, right? And your role is predominantly not a teacher, but a parent, a father or a mother. And a child at the age of 12, 13 years old might or might not be entirely open to the training led by daddy and mommy. So a lot of times, even very knowledgeable parents would come to us for help to involve us in the training process to get the child be ready. Last but not least, I would just want to mention, we advocate for your child. This is what we do, especially at Sesame. Not all consultants would be able to ring the school and have the phone call answered. But we so happen that because of my experience in the field, we are able to advocate for our students. What do we do in our profile building services? We help families select the academic courses for the following year, every year. Select the extracurricular activities to be involved in. Remember the 9 categories, right? We have to select those that really fit the personality of your child, right? And also maximize the impact. We select some activities. We help and train our students, prepare them for leadership roles. We conduct mock interviews, mock speech with our students, to help them have a little bit leg up in terms of before their speech to the entire student body for these leadership positions. We help our students mature. Many of our students, especially the boys are boys, like little boys. So they're a little not very serious and all that. So we teach them goal setting, we teach them reflection, journaling, and all that. And last but not least, we conduct regular progress reviews with our family. So it's not like you hand the child over to us and then we never talk again. Every month we give feedback back to the families. I just mentioned about, in terms of what we do, we understand the schools. We have a proven success. We're very proud of our curriculum that we have developed. especially, we are very custom tailored. So in the last point, and there is there are some very big consultancies, and they would tend to take on a factory like assembly line type of a mode with the families. We like to be small. We do not want to be big. So in my previous company, we serve about 50 to 100 families a year for boarding schools. At Sesame, we're looking at no more than that. So we want to keep it small, keep it custom tailored, so that we'll be able to address families' unique needs. Our motto will be to educate parents and students. So a lot of our work as parents will be more and more involved, would be to educate parents about the many different aspects of boarding education and how to prepare successfully for it. We identify schools, that would best match the students' interests and the developmental needs. And most importantly, we train them, we prepare them. Now, just want to, I know time is running short. I'll just give a couple of examples of how, profiles can help a student. We just, this past year, we just had a student who got admitted to a few top 10 schools. And of course, he is from a good school, a good international school. He does well, not necessarily top of the class. He does well, but he's really strong in soccer. All right. Now, the Americans, they don't care as much whether you can, eventually play the World Cup, so to speak. So whether you are that good is not of the utmost concern. But what they really care is how much time you spend in soccer, how much you have achieved, but also is to understand the type of journey that you have gone through in your soccer experience. All the setbacks that you may have, had, right, from, the beginning to now. And what have you learned, from your soccer experience, in terms of not only for yourself, but also, your teamwork, how you collaborate and work with your team members, your teammates, especially if you're a soccer captain, that would also play especially well. Now, our a student, this particular one, happens to be not only strong in soccer, he's equally interested in baseball and several other sports. And more importantly, he is so into sports that he would naturally memorize, not memorize, but he got to remember all the important statistics, industry statistics, the games. So if you can talk to him about, any like soccer game, baseball game, he know all the stats right there. And so these are collectively, these are impressive in front of the boarding schools. If boarding schools were to simply look for students with the highest possible grade, of course they can, right? But they don't. They look for interesting students. And so just studying hard is good. It just means you study hard and you're bright. So you are smart and you work hard. Great, good for you. But that doesn't make you interesting. They want interesting individuals, and usually interesting people, their interesting aspect not necessarily come from academics or alone in academics, but mostly in their other areas. They want students that are full of life and that they can make the boarding school life equally lively and colorful. So that's one student with a very interesting profile in soccer. Another student with a very interesting profile in writing, also this past year. And she has been admitted to a few top 20 schools. One of the reasons, because she's grade 10, she applied a little late. She think about boarding schools a little late in the game. If she had applied, started the process 2 years earlier, I believe the result could be even stronger. So she loves writing. So she's not just good in writing. She's really good in English. She just sat down and take SSAT and get 99 percentile. So that's the highest percentile. You can't get beyond 99. She just sat down and did it. And her English is superb. And even though she's from Singapore, she's not an American. She's not West. She's ethnically Chinese, grew up in Singapore. And so English and Chinese both are her first language. But, she's just very gifted in English and in writing. And she would start a writing club within her school. She would gather around a couple of her other friends who are equally interested in writing to discuss about different genre, about different things. She would go out using her summer holidays to do internship work, as well as to get herself involved in different writing workshops. She is an evangelist. She would also do media studies in popular cultures, K-pop, J-pop, and all that, and advocating for women's rights and children's rights. And so these are like interesting profile. Of course, she studied well, but this is an interesting profile of that particular student. So I have a couple more that I can share maybe in the Q&A session, but I'm mindful of time. I want to be respectful that we want to end within a reasonable time frame. So I'll pause over here. I can share more examples down the road. Key takeaways is to be strategic. Think about not just next year, think about the next few years. Even if you're thinking about boarding school, I always encourage parents, begin with the end in mind. Don't think about just getting into a top school. Think about the next stage, right? Think about grade 12, going to college, right? How do you plan to position your child, for college through the upcoming boarding school application? So be strategic. Start early as you can, all right? We're always, it's free to talk to us. We don't charge anything for just talking, all right? Feel free to have any initial consultation with us. And we'll be delighted to share our views as to how you get started. Most importantly, authenticity is key. We believe profile building must be authentic, all right? At the end of the day, we're here to prepare our child to be successful in life. It's not just trying to get him into a particular school, right? So we're not, everything that we do is trying to get into a particular school. It's like really like object oriented, that sort of thing. We don't promote that type of thinking. We want our students to be naturally curious about all sorts of things, curious about all sorts of things, that they want to dabble into music, performing arts, community service, and all sorts of stuff. We want them to be have that ability to coordinate and collaborate, work with peers. We want them to naturally be so interested and so passionate about certain things that they would go on and take on a leadership role and go after something. We want them to be kind at heart, that they naturally want to give back to the community. Oh, not because, oh, I need to tick the box of community service so that I get into a top school, right? No, we want them to be kind at heart. We explain to them, why it's important to give back and how fortunate we are and what we can do to help others that are not as fortunate. So this is, what we do, and this is the message that we promote. Now we're at Q&A. I'm sorry I overran by a little bit. I was supposed to finish around 8:05. So I would like to open the floor for any questions from any parents. So if any might have been typing in questions throughout the past half an hour, maybe Peter or Mint can help channel some of those questions to me so that I can do a Q&A right now.
Okay, Daniel, we do have some questions already. Some of them have been messaged to me personally, so I'll read that for you. The first one, is there a list of schools ranked in order? Which are the top 30 U.S. senior boarding schools?
Okay. For the longest time, I have been repelling the idea of ranking because I believe that we parents should be more interested in the fit than the ranking. So it's not like top 10 is better than top 20, top 20 is better than top 30. It's about the fit. We need to look for schools that fit our child the most. However, after 20 years in the field, I kind of a little bit surrendered to the popular demand. So at Sesame, we have our own band 1, band 2, band 3, band 4, band 5 type of a banding. All right. Every band has about 10 schools, but not restricted to only 10 schools. Right. We can have 9, we can have 11. But that's kind of sort out as to what we call a band 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 type of schools. In the industry, there is no official statistics, not like U.S. News and World Report. That's sort of a formula to hard rank the universities. Among boarding schools, there's no such hard and fast type of a formula. But for those that are in the field, we kind of know who the top 10 are. And so I will also be putting forth our version of top band 1, band 2, band 3 schools for our parents when it's time for school selection.
Hey, thank you, Daniel. So I think we have some time to take a couple of more questions. Okay, it's about Sesame. So how many consultants do we have at Sesame, and how many students do they work at any given time?
Okay. At Sesame, right now, we are in our year 1 operation. As I said, I just stepped down as the CEO of my former baby, from my former company, which I sold. And so in this first year, we have less than 10 colleagues, and they span in different areas. So let's say Peter, the gentleman who is hosting the show for tonight, he is involved in the operations and systems areas, more on that area. So the consultants right now would be headed by myself, my wife Ray, who is also a strong part of our team. We have another colleague also by the name Daniel Pan. He is also an instrumental figure within the consulting team. So right now, you'll be dealing with these 3 chief main consultants. As the number of families grow, we will be bringing in more and more consultants. But as now, we have 3 main consultants, me being included. So even though I'm a bit old now, close to retirement age, but I still enjoy taking students. As long as it's not too stressful, I delight in training students.
Yeah, thank you, Daniel. Okay, there's another follow-up question to that. So what's the next step for the audience here? Would it be a Zoom meeting with just the parents or also the students? So that's actually a great question. Yeah.
Yes. I usually the way that I conduct meetings with families is I try to be efficient. So instead of having 2 different meetings, I usually would do 1 meeting with both parents and student together.
So yeah.
Right.
Okay. So if I think you already have the communication previously with our sales consultants before, so they'll be in touch with you to arrange a meeting with our consultants. Okay.
So now I guess we're just happening at this page in front of us where we're still in screen sharing. So we have WhatsApp hotlines. So in Asia, our WhatsApp hotline is based in Singapore, but it's WhatsApp. So parents from anywhere can just type a WhatsApp message to us. And feel free to type down that you are interested to schedule a meeting, an initial consultation. Because Southeast Asia is so spread out, and it's not economical for me to fly to every city to meet with families, right? The cost will be prohibitive. So nowadays in post-COVID world, we all use Zoom like today. And so I'll be delighted, more than delighted, to host an initial consultation with the family, with at least one of the parents and the student, and I can spend about 50 minutes to an hour's time interviewing the student and also discussing with the parent on the overall plan and giving some tips as to the next steps. So I'll be delighted for those families who would like to move one step closer to learn more about boarding education. Please feel free to schedule an initial consultation with us. The easiest way to find us would be through the WhatsApp hotline. You can also reach us at hello@sesame.com. Our contact information is also on our website, www.sesame.com. You can also follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and our YouTube channel.
Thank you. I think we still have more time to take one more question, Daniel. Okay, so the question is, how important are letters of recommendations, and how should students ask, or who should students ask to write them?
Oh, I'm very delighted to hear this question. This technically doesn't have a lot to do with profile building, because as I mentioned, profile building is in the 1 to 2 year period, prior to the application phase. Usually when we talk about teacher recommendation, it happens during the application phase. Now remember, if you want to attend boarding schools in September of 2025, the deadline is January of 2025. And so 2024 July to 2024 December, this 6-month period will be the application phase. So the teacher recommendation usually happens during September, October, November of this application phase. One reason is the boarding schools do not want to receive teachers who taught the student too long ago. They want to be hearing very up-to-date comments and feedback about the student now. So from this current academic year. So therefore, the earliest that you can ask the teacher to write recommendation will be September. Usually, I would not recommend so early. You want to stay till maybe October, even in November. Not too late, right before Christmas. The teacher is not going to be happy because you are spoiling her Christmas vacation. All right. So maybe October or November, you want to approach the teacher and say, we're very interested in applying to American boarding school. And would you please kindly write a recommendation letter for us? The British call it reference letter. The Americans call it recommendation letter, a little bit more positive sounding, but essentially it's the same thing. And the recommendation letters are very, very important. All right. The grades are objective. If you don't have the grades, don't talk about it. All right. Don't worry. Don't even think about it. But you have the grades. That means you are in the door. You're in the door doesn't mean you win. You're just in the door. You're just in the game. All right. So the schools wants to hear subjective comments about the student. So subjective comments can come from 2 areas. One is subjective from a third-party point of view. So teacher recommendation is key to providing a trustworthy view from a third party, from a teacher's point of view on the student. Now, there's also parents will also need to write recommendation for your own child. But of course, you're going to say good things. You're not going to say bad things, right? So the schools would weight a little less on the parent essay than the teacher recommendation. Now, of course, the most critical piece is how the student presents himself or herself. That is the interview piece. That is the personal statement piece. The objective pieces are done in the very beginning of the screening process. The transcript, any public examination results like SSAT for international students, TOEFL, and you will need to fill out all the extracurricular wonderful engagement and all the activities that you involve in. So all those is like your CV, but those are objective in nature, right? You can say whatever you want, right? But at the end of the day, they want to see the real thing. They want to see who you really are. Are you interesting? All right. So those hard profile serves as a ticket to enter the game, but it is not the final. It's not the final stage. Talking to the student, listening to what teachers say are key. So teacher recommendation, very, very important.
Okay.
Oops.
Thank you so much, Daniel. So audience, if you still have more questions, feel free to reach us out to the contacts on the screen below, on the screen that you're seeing right now. And Daniel, do you want to add anything else?
I just would like to thank all the parents who had taken your precious evening time from anywhere in Southeast Asia. I know some come from Singapore, some from Bangkok, but I don't know if there are any others who are from any other cities as well. Thank you for taking the time over to come to listen. I hope today's session would hopefully bring to light, bring to a little bit more light about boarding education. Boarding school is a great thing. I'm a product of American boarding education. So this is part of me giving back. And in honor of my alma mater, I always wear my web tie. So this tie that I'm wearing, I've been wearing for 20 years. Of course, I've demolished a couple of them. So this is like a fourth or fifth tie now. But this is my web tie. My school tie from my school, and my school is the Webb Schools in California, in Los Angeles. So I firmly believe in the merit, in the life-transforming power of boarding education, and especially American boarding education. And I would love to be able to introduce this good thing to as many families as possible. So for any audience out there, if you're interested to learn more, just reach out to us using the WhatsApp hotline, using our email, or if you happen to know any of our colleagues, arrange it directly with any of them, with us. And if you happen to know any friends who might be curious to learn more about boarding education, let them know that there's this new guy in town called Daniel Sito. I used to be from Hong Kong. I used to live in Hong Kong. I came to Singapore 2 years ago towards the tail end of COVID. And now Singapore is my home. So I'm new to the region, but I'm not new to boarding education. And so please make good use of me, of my knowledge, and so that I can help bring as many families to this good thing as possible.
All right.
Thank you. Thank you all for coming. That's it. We can all do our own respective duties, family duties with our children now.
Okay, thank you so much, Daniel. Thank you so much, everyone. Feel free to leave the Zoom meeting. I will end the recording and the webinar soon. Thank you and have a good night.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.